Hi everyone, good morning. I'm Deepan Patel, so I'm the industry manager here for Phoenix Contact. This PowerPoint is basically going to be talking around a bit what Vanessa was talking earlier actually about power resilience and kind of supporting the power grids and what the importance are of that. So um, you've probably seen a lot in the news recently, so just a few snippets of the recent news that we've experienced. Power failures with namely Spain and Portugal. Obviously they're talking about how the renewable side has affected that, but you've got the AWS that's talked about the failure recently, which wasn't too far. I'm actually here at the minute in the States to support our colleagues here in America, but just to show the importance of power resilience. But it's not just about the power, it's also about the networks as well and what that does and mean for us. And also the demand and the growth. So we expect by 2035 that our power demand is going to be surging by a third than what it is today by 2035. So with over 30% growing in the next decade, I think the push for more electrification, the demand for generative AI, excuse me, and obviously the importance of building that demand for obviously, of course, data centers. And it's important. There's a lot of growth and planning permissions and a lot of what was just mentioned earlier. I can exactly resonate that. There's a lot of slow process for our government in the UK that's kind of hindering that process, especially in terms of other areas like United States. They have a much more open free kind of way to build and not as much kind of slow process to apply for planning and that. So the agenda today, I'm going to talk to you a bit around who Phoenix Contact are and a bit about us. Actual relevant application areas and then a bit more breadth about Phoenix Contact's portfolio, what we have done in the past in data centers, and obviously the kind of two pillars in this one is control and power resilience. So basically, Phoenix Contact is a global player. And with that in mind, we are very much kind of focused on continuing to be that global player about all things electric society. So that's everything from electrification to networking and how a lot of our importance for the next decade is about power resilience and also in providing that power networking, so DC microgrids and things like that. That in itself will play a huge important part as we develop more data centers and that. So a bit more about us. So we are actually one of the market leaders in the world in industrial connection and technology and automation. We're actually a privately held company and have been since 1923. So it's proud to say that actually we celebrated our 100-year anniversary. What's important is that it still holds its private held status and has been. So to celebrate 100 years was a massive achievement for the group. But that still continues to put us in a very vertically integrated, but also financially independent position. So we kind of dictate, kind of where the business needs to go. And with that, we have around about 10 production sites. We have about 75% of our sales is abroad. Sales revenue is in just shy of, I think, 4 billion euro turnover. So the growth of our business has obviously developed throughout the years. 20,500 employees, with 10, just over 10 in Germany. But to today, we represented in more than 100 countries. And we are not only just seeing the growth of data centers in the UK, but on a very international basis as well. And with that, that's exactly why we're trying to support a lot of these important topics, such as power resilience and control. We operate in many industries, so energy, process, infrastructure, and factory automation, and provide a very wide breadth range of products and solutions. over 100,000 products is our kind of portfolio. So we manufacture a wide range of products, products that range from quick commissioning to panel manufacturing to controls to EV. So e-mobility is a massive growth area as well, and that will obviously play hand in hand with power resilience and providing and supporting in a lot of our power demands as we go as society develops. The key topics of the data center market is around availability, green data centers, artificial intelligence, trying to offer more PUE reduction in how effectively data centers are designed and manufactured, and the importance about power usage efficiency. Data centers are now looking to be more modular. So I think although there's a lot of hype and talk about hyperscale, we are seeing a lot more co-location data centers as well. And of course, liquid cooling is hugely important. I'm actually here in Cincinnati at the minute. Just shy of Ohio, there's a few data centers that have come up here, and very much some data centers that are placed all over the world. Climates are very different. You can't just kind of copy and paste. The designs have to be slightly different based around the climate of that country or that region location. So liquid cooling is just as important as well. The trending topics of data centers, we have the sustainability, and then we've got connectivity. So just earlier, I talked around about what happened with Portugal and Spain. So connectivity is talking about things like outages driven very mainly by power, whether if it's software. So network, you would have heard about the AWS recent, that was a network failure. Cooling, and then obviously for our data centers to be more efficient so that we don't purely just, a power, these data centers are very, very power hungry. But we need to be sustainable. We need to be responsibly sustainable as well. So PUE, IT, equipment utilization, DSIM, so data center infrastructure management. How can we manage our data centers better, and make them more efficient? And obviously usage of water as well. So a lot of liquid data centers are being looked at how they can supply, from the water supply systems that we have. And that's in importance in the region of where they install some of these data centers. Um, Redundancy is a huge importance around resilience. So in our data centers, redundancy offers the critical components and duplication of the critical components. So you have a typical system where you've got a primary and a secondary. The main goal is to minimize disruption, whether it be a power disruption or even a network disruption as well. And they are mainly driven by improving and minimizing failures, such as whether it be hardware failures, power outages, or any other issues. There are multiple types of redundancy. So you have the power redundancy, network, and also hardware redundancy. So it's important to obviously categorize using a tiered system. And while the redundancy increases reliability, it is also important to manage the costs when we are trying to design a redundant system, because the cost of these systems double up quite expensively. So it's important to look at the type of budget constraints that come with building a two-tier redundant system. And how Phoenix Contact can help. So we have different area applications, whether if it's control, cooling infrastructure, energy distribution, fire secondary to a fire alarm system, low voltage switchgear, video surveillance. We do quite a wide range of solutions that kind of help support that. And those are the sorts of typical areas where we as Phoenix Contact can certainly help in providing solutions for these data center fit outs. And the sort of solutions that we have is power and protect. So from everything power supply, whether if it's AC or DC, UPS, battery backup, measuring. So a lot of data centers are now trying to look at measuring right down to the server systems themselves, in the amount of power that is being used and how they can utilize that power better. Control. So we do a very unique building management controller system, video surveillance. So a lot of our customers that we work with talking things like panel building, connections, termination, so the PDUs, all of those connections, the heavy con connections, we do solutions for that. Switching, so whether if it's relay and a plug-in test system. So for very quick commissioning, very quick connect and disconnect type of products and solutions, Phoenix Contact is a global player and a partner for data center customers globally. We also provide a range of accessories, so cabin accessories, marking, identification. So right from the design, we provide very unique solutions that all of your design and drawings can actually be very much plugged into our printer system so that they can automatically print all of the labeling that's required for the panels and the marking that's required, that type of thing. And we offer a very range of powerful building management controllers. So it's combining a successful solution. The range of controllers are PLC controllers, but this particular controllers that we've got are also powered by the Tritium Niagara framework. So it's a great solution so far that we have multiple data centers. And these are primarily because the controllers themselves are designed around HVAC cooling, liquid cooling, temperature, and that's the success that these controllers have typically had. So those controllers are the ILC 2250, which is equivalent to a Tritium Jace 9000 controller, or the ILC 2050, which is equivalent to the Jace 8000 Niagara controller. It's a controller that was, owned obviously by Honeywell, and that's the typical kind of controller that we have today in comparison. And then down the bottom there, you can see the Catan. That is very much a controller that is designed for typical BMS applications. But what are the advantages? So the 2250 controller is designed for a data center infrastructure management design. It offers up to connections of 63 I/O modules per controller, making it a very high scalable I/O solution. So that's not 63 points, that's 63 I/O slices. So our highest density I/O module in terms of channels is 32. So if you was to do that and times 63, you would have the ability to design around about 2000 data physical points into one single controller. What does that mean for a data center project? Well, importantly, it means that you can be very scalable. It means that no matter how small or big the IO requirements are, and a lot of these data centers need to monitor breaker statuses, ATS, which is temperatures with the chilled water systems that the data center would look at using, that type of importance. And because of the flexibility that our hardware offers in the marketplace, it is also a very compact system. So this controller only starts with an 80 millimeter width footprint. So there's a lot of panels that typically other controllers can vary and size and depth. With our controller being very compact as a starting point of only 80 millimeters wide, you can add a few inputs and outputs on that and still be very compact in your panel. And a lot of panels are now looking to be much smaller because there's a lot more product and solutions in that control system and that control panel. The controller also offers seamless integration, so you can integrate whether it be your lighting and your typical building controls protocols, which is like BACnet, both IP or MSTP. MBus is a typical metering protocol for all of your MBus meters. You can bring all of these types of in protocols into the controller natively, which is very powerful because it minimizes product in terms of a gateway, and it also improves savings in terms of engineering time and integration with the system. And it's a system availability. So it's a scalable I/O solution that is actually a designed PLC hardware grade approach. So our controllers were primarily designed in the PLC industry or the industrial sector. And what we've done as an organization is built that same kind of controller and embedded the Niagara Tritium framework software for it. So it offers, as you can see that screen behind the controller, that type of graphics and that to very offer unique solutions. Why is it especially useful? Well, it's got increased power, so it's a quad-core processor. It's got things like improves the building redundancy, so RSTP, which is a rapid spanning tree protocol. So that offers connectivity to not just other controllers, but it infrastructure as well as importance in redundancy of that. So if a particular network was to be severed, the controller can understand where the traffic needs to be rerouted and it can perform those types of tasks. And it's also ready for things like the next phase of cybersecurity. So you may have heard of the Cyber Resilience Act. So that is also ready and compliant for when that act comes into force. So it's a robust and reliable industrial design. These are the types of the I/O connections that you can connect to. So it's a full range of I/O solutions for the controlling for the industry, for the data center control centers. So just in a bit more detail, so as I said earlier, it's compact. So let's put it in a real world example. So what makes it modular and unique is it offers about 100 digital inputs and 70 digital outputs as an example. So this is a particular example of a control system with that many inputs and outputs. And you can see just how compact that is. So with the 170 points on one single controller, it gives you a design width panel of only 348 millimeters. It is very, very compact indeed. And that's why it offers that flexibility, especially in data centers, and the amount of control inputs and outputs required to monitor all of these types of important systems that support the data center. And we also have a very unique software that allows you to configure just how many points you require, and it will tell you how many modules you need, the power consumption. So you can see on this picture here that this particular system is going to need at least a power supply of at least 7 to 8 amps of a power supply. And that's the type of flexibility that the software configurator offers, and it's free from Phoenix Contact as well. So we've got typical types of designs. So we've got a central design, so you can see our central connected I/O modules, but we also do remote I/O options as well. So whether it be Modbus TCP or RTU, we've got advantages such as collection and control of I/O signals and distributed approach. But we don't stop there. Phoenix Contact have actually built a Niagara driver that allows for easy I/O data place deployment. So what do we mean by that? We are talking about connecting all of the modules on your remote coupler. So you can connect another 63 I/O modules on that remote coupler, whether it's TCP or RTU, doesn't matter. The driver itself will automatically scan that coupler and come back and tell you what connected modules you have on that coupler. Not just that, but it will also automatically create the points so that you can start as an organization very effectively develop the connection. The Catan controller and its main features is a very compact housing and standardized for DIN cabinets. This controller, if it has built-in I/O points, and those I/O points are universally configured. So you can configure a range of 16 I/O points. You've got the ability to also connect up to further 16 I/O modules via single pair Ethernet. So this controller offers the next phase of network connectivity, which is T1L, and it's got the ability to connect up to 16 further I/O modules. The controller itself has three Ethernet ports that are 1 gigabit transmission speed. And again, it is also powered by the Tridium Niagara framework. Our version of Tridium or Niagara framework is called Emalytics, but you can see the same advantages of the 2250 offers in the same with the Catan controller. But it is a much more cradle to cradle sustainable controller that is also labeled in terms of the design, and it's a digital twin. So as a basis for smart buildings, in a lot of these data centers as well, it's quite universal and versatile for what you need. So power resilience. The importance of power resilience is to prevent an unplanned system failure and downtime. The risk factors are broad, so it can include anything from lightning to surge, that could typically cause fires and outages. So you may well have heard early in the year, the substation at opposite Heathrow Airport caught fire that caused the Heathrow Airport to close for several hours. That had globally, not just in the UK industry or UK country. It affected flights on an international scale. This is how important power resilience is to our society, not just society, but to these data centers. So the simple solution is to look at providing solutions and concepts in terms of power supplies in the UPS, device protection and surge protection. So what was great is that actual substation fire. I do know there was a data center close by, and what was lucky, sorry, is the generator set had also kicked in to continue providing that, which prevented a data center also failing power. And the typical further causes of outages could be a range. So it could be heating, natural disaster, connection, cable routing, wrong dimensioning, arc fault, multiple types of failure that can actually cause an outage of a data center. So we as Phoenix Contact have quite a wide range of power solutions to support the power resilience importance behind data centers. So this is a typical power range of power supplies called the Trio Power from Phoenix Contact. And you can just see the wide range of supply. So it ranges from multiple power supplies to a circuit protection. On the right hand side, it's an electronic circuit breaker. So quite a wide range of solutions that's provided for the market and the demands. So the circuit protection is one that gets used a lot in data centers. So this is providing a circuit breaker that is just a normal circuit breaker. It's a circuit breaker that allows you to remotely reset, but it's also very quick in terms of configuration, fast, convenient, and simple. Its arrangements can be from anywhere from half an amp up to 10 amps. And the advantages that it provides is that it can be adjusted via the tool-free via a single LED push button. It can be ordered pre-configured as well for device protection. And as I said, intelligently, so it allows you to send back the signals and the control to a control system like our controller, for example, using the IO link technology. So these particular systems have an IO link connectivity so that if a circuit breaker was to be tripped, it allows a control system to send an alarm or typical kind of response to a control system. And then the operator, without even knowing the fact that the failure has occurred, will then be notified because of this control system to the operator station, and then the operator can perform and quickly restore and diagnose what the problem is, for example. So we don't just stop there. One of our key factors in cabinet and panel builds, as I said earlier, is space. So we also do have a range of other circuit protection products. So the key example and key points from this is the Clipline Complete Terminal Block System is a block system that allows you to now actually connect a circuit protection device. And the more space that you have in your control cabinet, the narrowest protection is on just 8.2 millimeters width. So not only are you then fighting for the space, you've got something that actually improves your space, saves the space in the control system, but an actual circuit protection system in that you can see here. So the single pole and two pole designs is specification improvement on existing ranges. So there are lines with other systems that we do, which is power reliability. And we do also provide USP points in terms of current monitoring and visual display. So on the left-hand side, you can see just how much power is going through these terminal blocks so that you can then have a look at just how much power you need to. The comparison of the cabinet space to existing devices. So this is an actual comparison. So you can take a typical 6-breaker system. On the right, as you can see, the width of it is at 159. Just by using our compact solutions as well, it improves that space by actually only being 49 millimeters. So it really is compact indeed, and it offers those type of same circuit protection that you typically use. So a miniature circuit breaker, for example. So there's a huge space saving. You get a physical up and a down position, and it's also easily used with our clip line products as well. And there's also an added benefit for the installers and our typical kind of markets for data centers. So we also do an integrated circuit breaker. So this is the other one, which is basically, again, further offers up to 70% is a typical saving of not just installation time, but also cost savings as well, because you're not having to use extra wiring, extra terminal blocks, and things like that. So it's up to 3 AC grids of up to 40 amps. So these are typical circuit breakers protections that we offer from Phoenix Contact. And there's also smart diagnostics. So there's key IO link, as I said earlier, to send those types of control signals back to the control system so that you can very quickly improve when there's a power failure in the data center, whether it's in just a simple control panel, this type of solution can improve that downtime by very quickly acting so that it's preventing that type of system to minimize that downtime indeed. So we've got particular case studies that I'd like to kind of discuss. So one of our customers had some recent pains. So they had pains in their data center for downtime on availability. The panel sizing were increasing ever so much, and the products inside the panels were also increasing. There was a multiple gateways needed, so for IP switches, IP routing. The ILC 2050 controller does do IP static routing as well. And there were multiple typical protocols that were not harmonious in terms of the gateways needed to bring those into a control system. Not to mention the multiple vendor products as well. So there was no common vendor across the types of products and solutions used in these control panels. So the customer had some massive benefits by using the Niagara controller from Phoenix Contact. They used to monitor and control several bespoke cooling systems that obviously allowed their data centers to become that much more self-sustainable. This data center actually uses portable rainwater. So in England, obviously, as you guys know, it rains quite often. So not only are they actually trying to help, but they collect all of that rainwater so that it allows them to become self-sustainable. The data centers are hyperscale, so it provides a lot of renewable energy with what the data center operators use typically in power. So this particular one use near enough 100% that's from renewable energy from the energy operators. Not only that, the Niagara controller improved their PUE rating by using our controller from 1.67 to 1.05. And Phoenix Contact didn't just stop there. We obviously, as I said earlier, provide a whole range of solutions for the market. So in this case, they use a range of our UPS solutions to offer power reliability in their data centers. The RC 2050 controller and the bus coupler also offers the same solutions in terms of the I/O design modules. So whether if you use a 2050 or 2250, the inline I/O is exactly the same. The same is said also for our bus coupler system that I showed earlier. The commonality of the I/O modules itself improves that because there is no multiple parts or anything. The I/O modules can be used on both types of designs. And just to summarize here, so we offer about 100,000 products plus in the data center market. Much more popular, Tridium, which is the company behind Niagara, is partnered by Honeywell. So there's multiple use cases for typical building automation, but not just that, it is growing in data centers as well. So there is a seamless integration into building requirements with a centralized IO solution. And that's it for me. If there's any questions, but thank you for listening.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Deepan. We actually did have a question from Bruna, who said, "How would redundancy work for fire safety systems in data centers?"
It's a good I think, to be honest, with the fire safety system, a lot of the fire safety suppression systems would have to obviously operate when in case of a fire. When the fires do occur, it's important that the obviously first and foremost is the fire is put out very quickly. The data center has to very react rapidly based on the then it all depends on where it happened, where it is in the data center, and what they can do to improve the uptime during an incident like that to minimize that from happening in the first place. So, when I visit a lot of data centers, I've seen the amount of fire suppression systems that they have. So, just like I whether it be a control system or a fire suppression system, there would have to be a redundant fire suppression system behind it as well. And like I said, it all does all depend on the type of incident and where the location of that fire is. Nine times out of ten, what I do see is that they typically have fire detection systems so that it prevents from it actually turning into a fire. It sends them the signals in terms of humidity. So the EMS system, I believe, is probably what the typical data center market would use to monitor if there is a smoke, for example, before it turns into a fire hazardous.
Amazing, thank you. That was the only question we had from our audience on this one. Thank you, Deepan. That was
Brilliant.
really appreciated. Clearly, you covered everything, so that's why no one had any more questions, I assume.
Nice. Thank you very much, Jordan. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a great day.